Welcome everyone back to Pommy and Oz. Hope we're all doing really well. If you're new around here, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe. It really helps the channel out. We're ploughing them through. We're nearly at the end of the season. Carlton versus Brisbane. So if you want to become a member, do that. Link is in the description to do that. And we start off with, what a game. What a game we have got here. What magnitude we are experiencing. Both sides one game away from the biggest game in football, and this is something that the boys of both sides have been gearing up to all season, and it's such a synergetic game, isn't it? Both of these sides have been often compared to each other, often mirrored, purely because they began the rebuild at the same time, and they face off in a game that will define rebuilds. And this is a game that last time out, obviously, a lot's been talked about Dunkley and his work on Cripps. But this is a different Carlton side, and that has to be said. And you've got a myriad here of teams that really play the game in a polar opposite. This is like watching Jose Mourinho versus Pep. This is two teams that build their brand on different facets of the game. Going into it, we've got Brisbane, one of the biggest kick-heavy sides, the leading point scorers in the competition, a strong clearance side, a strong side at getting the ball onto the outside and playing a real fast brand of football. The outside run, their ability to generate scores, and they are high-value scores as well, shouldn't be understated. They're a team that genuinely has negated the opposition's clearance. Versus Carlton, who are a strong stoppage and clearance side. They're a side that really likes to kick mark and hold and retain a bit of possession and play a real rambunctious blue-collar style football. Versus kind of the, I mean this in the nicest point of the way, but they're almost like ballerinas versus labourers. That's what you've got here. You've got a matchup of the sexy and the unsexy, but both being ruthlessly efficient throughout the course of the back end of the year. This is a game here where it's going to be the game plan will out. No side, whichever side makes that silly mistake, if Brisbane make that silly mistake of we're going to be a real strong stoppage and clearance side, we're going to work around the stoppage and we're going to be really difficult to break down there and we're going to go through the corridor, Carlton win. If Carlton think, you know what, we're going to book the trend and we're going to set up to be really outside heavy and we're going to try and play a game that is a real high brand and high energy and try and stop them doing what we're good at, Carlton win. And that is how this game works, right? That is how it works. You've got to think on this now. It's a tactical front of how Carlton have really showed the last 2 weeks, particularly in finals, that you can take away our stoppage and clearance game, but we find an edge somewhere else. But we still focus on that. That is still our brand. We want you. And I feel like we've beaten two teams in the last couple of weeks, and no one's talked about it because we forced them to play our game. And that is a sign of a real strong team. That is a sign of a strong team. We know Brisbane, in this occasion, they can go on the outside and they can really, really hurt us. But Carlton need to hurry them up, speed them up, make them quick, make them less time to make that decision, make them to kick long to contest, and Carlton will look to break down and create repeatable stoppages to make it a hard yakka. Let's look at our mighty, wonderful Blue Boys. They go into this game, and these are the stats for the last 5 games. The kick percentage, what does that mean? How often do they kick? Carlton are genuinely starting to increase this over here as they come against heavier forward presses. And it has to be said, we're coming up against a team that has a real strong forward press. We talked about it last week and the week before. Carlton genuinely like playing these sides. They have a very good little nuance when it. And if you watched the selection panel this week, I made a big strong case for Jordan Boyd. And reports are Carlton are going to go with that. And that excites me. Not because I'm right, but because of what that brings. I feel like the back four, our big boys, are real good matchups and real good opportunities to counter-punch from them. We are the number 1 side in the AFL without the ball. And people are talking about the narrative this week has changed. Every week the narrative changes to tell you something that we're bad at. 18th with the ball. And we're going to come to that when we come to some of these stats here, what that means. But for me, one of the most important stats, and I'm not a big fan of without the ball, but I'll use the words of Pep Guardiola here. What you do without the ball gives you permission to do something with the ball. You earn the right. When you, without the ball, if you work so hard, you're in a better defensive position, you're in a better position to counter-press, and you're also in a better position when the ball is turned over to make it hard on offence and defence. And that is what Carlton do. And Carlton will really like the forward press, because what that does is when you're playing 4 guys who are very strong with intercepts, and you add the addition of Boyd, who has got that elite kick and that better score launch ability than Mr. Pomcutter, my boy, you can thread your passes through. And this game here, you've got to play to win. It's knockout football. That is so imperative. This isn't 4 points and there's a next week. This is if there is no next week, you earn the right for next week. So I really like that selection. 72%, just under disposal efficiency, 54.4 inside 50s. This is a point here with why our with the ball is so low. Carlton's forward line has really been much changed, particularly in the last 12 weeks, whether it be midfielders that enter that position, whether it be forwards who are in there. This is going to be a real case in point that this is probably Carlton's strongest forward line for a long time that you'll see. Now, there is conjecture will always go out. For me, if you're saying that Mackay and Martin are coming in and Owen's got to go out, I think you've got an agenda that isn't football if you're unhappy with that. Owens has been statistically our best small forward this year. Motlop's not too far behind though, very, very negligible. But also the ability to create turnover from the forward. Motlop has been stronger statistically pound for pound. And people forget that since he came back into the side, he's averaged just under 2 goals a game, which shows that fear. But Mackay offers so much more. Carlton's outlet ball is better. They have that target there. Carlton's obviously gonna always take a key defender away. We've seen the Sydney game when he got injured and the Melbourne game, how easy it is to negate Charlie without him and without Martin as well. That is a key point that they've got 2 targets. Martin is an additional target in that forward line. And Carlton have really struggled at that 60-metre point where Martin is really strong with that, and Carlton's numbers escalate dramatically when Martin plays because he is that little conduit, that little 65 kick out that's looking to make something happen. There's a reason that he is the #1 player for ball versus opportunities created, and that shouldn't be understated. So I really like the fact that that's going to look a little bit sharper this week. The just under 80%, 79% rebound 50 rate shows why Carlton are one of the strongest defensive sides in the comp. They negated the best side last week. They are now the best side left in it. And this is a strength with the 16.2 metres gained. This is why I say the forward press against Carlton, and this is a real subtle change over the last couple of weeks, has been they like these forward presses. They like the opposition coming onto them. And Carlton have started to become a real good pressure handle inside. They look for them dangerous kicks. And it gets them in trouble quite a bit. But you've got to play a bold brand to get out of the shit. And that is what Carlton are really doing at the moment. +7 contested possession differential, which they've played some real strong contested sides. They've also played some real big clearance sides. And last week they did get peppered around clearance. And this is a really good point to discuss. This proves the narrative that you take Carlton's clearance game away, they can't win. It massively proves it, because last year that was kind of true. Their ability now, because of their work rate off the ball, which was so low last year, now it's so high, puts them in the position to always be within a chance. And in these kind of knockout games, it's all about being in the moment. Collingwood were panned last year for winning so many games short. Richmond, in their glory years, were so strong at winning games from losing positions. And it comes from your work without the football. You've got to be in it to win it. And what we saw last week is Carlton had one opportunity to put the game away. They did. 56 seconds. Akers does it. Your ability off the ball allows you to do that. If you're working hard, you're always keeping the games tight. So don't buy into the narrative that you're going to have to kick 20 goals to beat Brisbane. If you play Brisbane's football and you allow it, and you're a moron, yes. But this is high-level sport. Carlton aren't going to be wanting to play that game. Carlton are going to be wanting to slow this game down. And I expect that clearance differential to be a real big, strong positive if Carlton want to win this game. Marks inside 50 rate, this is it here. It's going to be really imperative that that kick from whoever's on the wing hits Motlop, hits Martin so they can negate and get that deeper entry. It's going to be really interesting to see that if they do rotate Charlie. Charlie's played a lot up the ground in the last couple of weeks, particularly when Harry got injured, purely because of that. We're hoping here to see that one of them's going to have to stay in the goal square and demand the ball deep. 67.4 tackles, showing Carlton's hard work rate without the ball. And this is the area of concern. 40% under chance creation. That's inside 50s becoming actual shots at goal. So what that's telling you there, that Carlton's method to win this is going to be strong when the ball hits the deck, trying to create them repeat stoppages, repeat entries, and making them maximise and leaving with at least a behind, but also to getting the ball deeper. Getting the ball deeper. A lot of one-on-ones because of Carlton's fast transition game. That's partly negated when Martin and Mackay don't play, because they do allow that kind of slow down to get the ball ahead and get the people ahead. That's going to be a really interesting tell, and that's something that Carlton have got to really focus on this week. Not trying to force the entries, and that's what we're guilty of. A lot of these here, these one-on-ones, these booming it in, are kind of when Carlton are trying to force the issue, and that is a little bit of maturity that will come in. Obviously, it's a tetchy game. Then we come on to Brisbane. Brisbane are fantastic. They're a terrific side. I can't speak highly enough of them. They play football in the right way. It's quick, it's fast, it's sexy. It is everything that the AFL media enjoy about them. They capitalise on turnover. They are one of the strongest turnover sides in the league. Number 1 from turnover differential. But it is really interesting that when you look at this and you've got to think about it logically, differential is really important, because one area of weakness is ground balls in the forward half of the ground. Carlton are one of the number 1 ranked sides in that. That's a real highlight, the ground balls that Carlton get. And that is why we're talking about the inside 50s entries, being deeper, being at the fall of the ball and making it really tough. And Carlton will really look to maximise that. Fogarty is going to have a huge say in that, because he's one of the stronger players in our forward line with Motlop. Them two are very, very high in that facet of the ground. What they like to do, though, Brisbane, is they like to build from the back. They like to go long. And as you can see, 17 metres gained per disposal. It's proving that there. The rebound 50 rate, they do hemorrhage, and that's because over Carlton because of how bold they are down the back. And the secret to winning this game for the Blues, but also the secret to winning the game for them, is inefficient how they get to move the ball from the back half. So what we mean by that is what we're looking for from the Blues is make it fast. Make them go long. Make them do that. And that's what they did very well with Christian Salem this week, just gone, and they did against Sydney. They hurried that kick up. They put pressure at the fall of the ball, and they took away the short options. Carlton have got to take the short option away, because what Brisbane like to do is when they turn the ball over, there is a short kick. It opens up the ground, usually to the centre of the D50, and then they're out and away. And that is what Carlton have got to look for. Quick little gibs and goes. They've got to take them away. And Martin is very good at stopping that, and so is Motlop when he plays. And that is what Carlton are really going to be looking at this week. They're going to be really looking at, can I do it? And when you've got Jack Martin, you've got Jesse Motlop with them forward 50 ground ball gets, that is so imperative that that happens this week. The inside 50s generation, as we know, just slightly more than Carlton, and that, when you look at the chance creation, that's that. It's quality entries. It's deep entries into their strong. It also needs to be looked at that Charlie Cameron has been playing a lot higher up the ground in that Jack Martin role. And that is so imperative. Jack Martin versus Charlie Cameron is going to be so imperative in this game about giving quality entries into the furnace. 2.8 contested possession differential and just 0.4 clearance differential. Shows you the quality of the opposition. They have had a lot easier games in the last 5 than Carlton, it has to be said, from this clearance avenue. The marks inside 50 rate just shows you, even though it's just slightly over Carlton's, how important that is. And the tackles without the ball, this is where Carlton's strength is. Let's look at that mirrored up together. So obviously, they kick more and their disposal efficiency is slightly more. We've talked about why that is. The inside 50s, just 1 more. And that is really important, because this battle here, inside 50s versus rebound 50 rate, Carlton are going to have the opportunities, and they've got to maximise them. We know that they're so good at that mark inside 50 and that chance creation. It's going to come in. It's about Carlton making them less quality, making them kick inside 50 from deep, and that's where Carlton's plus 10 tackle numbers gives you hope. The pressure has got to be up the ground. You've got to be forcing that long entry. Meters gained, just 1 metre, but that is very important and very telling. This is where I'm telling you, don't play the uncontested game, play the contested game. Carlton know one-on-one, mano-mano, they win this game by being slow and methodical. Ignore the clearance for a second, because Carlton's scores from clearance are so much more superior. But this is the area here where Carlton will be looking and going, right, this is what I'm doing. This is what I am looking at. I am looking for being the number 1 clearance differential side in the competition. I am looking for it. They know that they scored plus 11 points in that defeat last time. They know that this is where the strength is. And the ground ball differential being 1 versus 18. It's really interesting that what we're number 1 in, they're 18th, and what 18th is, they're number 1 in. And that is going to be the key core battleground, this midfield. Plus 10 tackles, as we said to Carlton. Carlton have got to make sure that pressure is high up the ground. You're trying to maximise what you're strong at, which is in the clutches of the battle, but you want to make their strength, which is their score generation from deeper, low percentage plays, because that plus 11.8 chance creation is quality inside 50s. Let's see how that matches up over the 4 quarters. As you can see, both teams start very well. 3 out of 5 and 4 out of 5 is very strong, and the quarter 2 is it. After the quarter, and this has been very interesting from Carlton, even though that they have won every game that they have led, 12 wins, that they've led at 3-quarter time, this is the weak quarter. Their ability to be consistent through the middle part of the ground is Brisbane's strength. Their control of the game has been really exceptional, and that has been shown that Carlton have had very tight games. This is going to be really a core battleground. Carlton want to keep this game as tight as possible, right? And try and get ahead in the back end of that second to give them a burst and then come out strong. The 4th quarter has been impeccable from Brisbane. They really do come home with a wet sail. There is certain areas though. Oscar McInerney, he ranks quite low for a 4th quarter. Carlton will look at that. They can tire that ruckman out, which will play into their ability to control the background around stoppages. But that does curtail to 14 quarters for Brisbane versus 10 out of 20 for Carlton. And let's look at the matchup. It's not pretty reading as them stats show. Defence versus forwards, with that score generation that Brisbane have, even though Carlton are the best, it is a slight edge to Brisbane. The midfield, the score generation from their midfield slightly tips that in Carlton's favour. Forward versus defence, as we've talked about, Brisbane, their turnover game is elite, particularly in the back half of the ground. Clearance versus stoppage, though, Carlton's 1 would, meaning a 3-goal win by the data from there. But as we've said the last couple of weeks, and it's always gone against Carlton, because the numerical data always plays on there. This is all about mindset, this is all about sticking to your task, because Carlton, even though the numbers are saying it's Brisbane, home advantage, all that bollocks, it's all about going in here and playing your way. And Carlton's strength is Brisbane's weakness, and Brisbane's strength is Carlton's weakness. This is want, this is determination. This is something that is so intrinsic that you can't numeralise. Some things data can't tell you, and heart isn't one of them. We can guess your heart from numbers, but we don't know it. And this is why it is so important that you guys and girls in Brisbane, you guys and girls watching on the watch along with me, you guys and girls watching at Icon Park with everyone else, you've got to bring the energy, you've got to bring the noise, because the boys need that intrinsic and that ability to make this tough. It takes it out of them. This is the biggest game on Carlton's calendar for many and many and many a decade. This is where they go in, and this is where heroes are made. And I, for one, believe that Carlton win this game by 8 points. I really do. I feel Carlton have got the tools to do it. They've got the savvy. The Boyd in really excites me, regardless of if he hasn't played, because the defensive numbers between him and Cincotta aren't massively different, but the massive numbers difference are the score generations from the back half. And Carlton have obviously looked at the tactics, looked at the setup, and said this is where we can hurt them and maximise what we're good at. The 4 toes got against them, the matchups are good. This is a different Carlton side, and people are forgetting versus Brisbane than last time. There is a lot of bigger bodies and a lot of superstars. I can't wait for this. Cheer hard, Bluebaggers. I am really excited. This will be a nail-biter. This will be the tie of the finals. I can't wait to do the watch-along with you. Much love. God bless. Pom out.
rolling up, Uber black Cadillac, high heel boots and a sexy body full of tats. Baby's bad, oh baby's hella bad.